Mason, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
My pleasure. So, are you at Nosler HQ?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. If you could hear a little bit better, you'd hear the presses actually running out on the floor making bullets. So,
Oh,
yeah, I'm right on the other side of the wall from where all the bullets are getting made.
how long have you been there?
I've been here at Nosler for over 14 years, going on getting close to 15.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
yeah, a long time.
And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Bend, Oregon, right here where we're located. So, yeah, it's my hometown.
How, this is a loaded question, but because I have a buddy who has a fly fishing cabin around Bend. Like, if you're from there originally, have you seen it uh, become more progressive, more liberal over the years?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, yes, the answer is yes. When you're a kid, I don't know, you don't pay attention as
Right.
much like to that. But yeah, I mean, just the town. I mean, when I was little, it was 36,000 people. Now we're well over 100,000, with the majority of those new people coming in from largely from California.
Ugh.
So the
Yeah.
yeah, the politics have changed. So we're right on the edge. I mean, Portland's always dominated, politics in Oregon because that's the biggest population center.
For sure.
And Eastern Oregon's always been very red, because due east of us is all, just ranch land and just wide open country, and not a whole lot of people,
Mhm.
which is a good and bad thing in that there's not a lot of people, but not a lot of voting power
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I asked that question was just because here we have a massive ammunition factory right there in Bend, which seems to be pretty liberal leaning. So
The
I don't
least
know.
likely spot you would expect it to, and especially right where we are, it's pretty funny. We're in kind of the kind of a trendier, like upscale part of town that it used to be where the lumber mills were, right on the river, because that's why
Uh,
Bend is here in the first place, is because the lumber mills and because of logging. And so when we moved into this facility that we're in now, there was still a lumber mill across the street, which is now long gone. And so the what's now called the Old Mill District is now your high-end shopping and condos, and it's a beautiful part of town, but the last place you'd expect to find a bullet
yeah.
manufacturing facility.
Well, it wasn't a lumber mill that I worked close by. My first on-air job in radio in East Texas. It was a paper mill, and I don't know if you know anything about paper mills, but they smell terrible.
Oh yeah,
And I don't
we
know
still
why
have a
that
few,
is. Okay. I don't know
not
what,
in Bend, but in Oregon.
yeah,
Yeah.
what they're putting in there, like what chemicals, but it's a terrible stench. And it was like right by the radio station I worked at. I was like, step outside and enjoy that smell. Um, okay, so you've been at Nosler for a while. What do you do there?
I do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats. Currently, my official title or role is brand director. And so right now, a lot of my time is focused on new product development, and then also kind of just coordinating that product development from production to marketing to sales and getting it out the door. So it's not like I'm, inventing the new bullets, but I'm kind of helping steer the ship and get all the teams aligned to bring those products to market.
Okay, so you're not a mad scientist back there.
No, no, I'm not an engineer. I'd like to pretend to be one sometimes, and then they tell me to you know, go back to my office. But no, and then majority of my time here previously has been spent in the marketing department, and still and closely involved in a lot of that as well. So
Okay, so
just do whatever needs to be done.
what's your favorite thing about working at Nosler?
Walking into work every day and there's taxidermy on the walls, people have guns in their offices. That's probably one of the best things. But no, just being here, just the people I get to work with, the atmosphere, just doing something you love every single day. um, that's just, yeah, you can't beat it.
Uh-huh. So what do you like to hunt for yourself?
For myself, I like primarily big game. So I've got two teenage sons, and so last several years just been focused on them
Yeah.
mostly. And so deer and elk hunting here in Oregon is kind of our primary thing. So oldest son killed a buck 2 weeks ago, so that was pretty fun. And then do a little bit of bird hunting as well. We got a lot of really good chucker hunting just to the east of us, and so we like to torture ourselves with that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I love bird hunting as well. Um, so are you guys hunting whitetails on the eastern
A
side of
mule
the state?
deer, mule
Okay.
deer, and blacktails.
Okay.
So on the east side of so the Cascades kind of divide Oregon in kind of one third, two third, maybe like 60%, 40%, like north to south. So on the west side is all blacktails, and then on the east you've got mule deer. We do have a small pocket of whitetails, but that's like a real specialized draw, like a real limited hunt.
Uh,
So no, so mule deer in the east, which is a lot harder to draw a tag. You got to have several points. It takes a couple years to draw a mule deer tag on the east side, but then the west side is a general hunt. Just there's a lot more blacktails over there, and
okay.
so that's what we were hunting over there. So that's kind of the fallback when you don't hit the draw for mule deer. You can always pop over the mountains and hunt blacktails on the west side.
Okay. And I know you guys have Roosevelt elk there, right?
Correct. Yep.
Do you also have Rocky Mountains in part
We
of the
do.
state?
Yeah, same thing. So the dividing line's the same for like blacktail mule deer. So it they use the Pacific Crest Trail as the line. Fish and wildlife. Of course, the deer and elk don't really pay attention to where the line is. But yeah, technically everything to the west of the PCT is considered a Roosevelt elk, and then everything to the east is considered Rocky Mountain. But what's kind of cool is because I mean a lot of the good hunting is right along the Cascades, right where the line is,
Yeah.
and so you get some cool hybrids along the line, of both deer and elk. So a lot of times guys will kill something and be like, well, what is it? And it's like, well, it's got
Yeah.
some Roosevelt like tendencies, and then it looks kind of Rocky Mountain, and so it's kind of cool. So yeah, we have both.
So I shot a elk red stag hybrid in West Texas last year on
Oh,
an
that
elk hunt,
that's cool looking.
and I had no idea. In the landowner, um, they didn't say that they had red stag out there. Not to like besmirch them. I'm going mule deer hunting with them here in a couple weeks. But when we walked up on it, was very clear. It was like, eh, this thing has certain characteristics on its rack, and we didn't have a lot of time. We were driving across this flat sagebrush pasture from basically one mountain range to the other on this 10,000-acre free range property. And there aren't any high fences out in this part of the world. I mean, it is just massive country, big ranches.
Hmm.
And there was like this little clump of shrub, like mesquites, like bushes that are 8 to 10 feet high.
Yep.
And this bull jumps out right in front of the truck and then jumps back in. And the guide and I just look at each other and he's like, shoot that bull. I'm like, yeah, we saw him like all this mass. And so I got out and jumped in the back of the truck and I could see him and I could just see one antler, but he was broadside at like 50 yards, just but kind of obscured. Like I shoot him thinking I just shot this cool, like non-typical looking elk, and then we get up there, I'm like, it's not really an elk, but it isn't really a red stag either. But it damn sure was delicious, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, I bet. Was he all like crowned out, kind of like a
On one side,
stag?
yeah, yeah, he was. Uh-huh.
That's pretty cool. So how does that
Yeah.
work then? Like for your tag, it's like
Oh well, there's no tag in Texas.
because either
So
one, right? Because elk
yeah,
aren't
elk
elk
are
like an
they're exotic here too.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can hunt them whenever, however. But I wanted to shoot an elk in my home state, and it didn't pan out exactly how I planned, but it was still a cool experience, cool animal. Um, but when these Rockies and Rosies interbreed, is it obvious?
It's not. No, it's not real obvious, and that's why. And the blacktails and mule deer do it too, and there's it's the
But
source of
blacktails are so
much.
much smaller, aren't they? So wouldn't that just look like a stunted whatever it is?
Yeah, it's tough, and it results in much argument, between guys of like,
Uh,
what is it, and so the deer they call them bench leg bucks. I don't know where that name came from, but that's kind of the term for like a hybrid
mm,
blacktail mule deer. And so yeah, the elk is a little harder to tell, so it's kind of, I guess you'd have to do like a DNA test to know for sure,
yeah,
but it's not obvious. You kind of look at it and you're like, well, he's got his like, because the Roosevelts they're much darker black, like on their legs. And so sometimes you'll get some of that coloration, but then the rack will look more like a Rocky Mountain, but maybe it's a little small, but it's like, well, is
uh,
he just small or is he hybrid?
yeah.
So it's hard to say.
I've only ever seen a Roosevelt in British Columbia. I was black bear hunting on Vancouver Island, and they have giant ones there. And
Oh, I
uh,
bet.
and this thing was just hanging out in the yard of our lodge, and he was over 1,000 pounds. And I've killed
Yeah.
Rockies. They're 600, 700 pounds. A nice bull can get bigger, but these Rosies are like 1,000 pounds. Is no big deal.
Yeah, huge bodies. And they live in like the thickest, nastiest jungle. You're like, how does that animal even move through there, let
Yeah,
alone, and but yeah, they're big and beautiful. Not
is
a
it
lot
hard
of
to get a
antlers to go
hard to
with
get a
it.
tag?
So no, so the west side, same thing. Western Oregon is a general hunt for elk. So it's just you've got the west side is a lot wetter and just a lot more habitat, a lot more feed
Yeah,
versus the east side is mostly high desert. So it's just a lot less. So I think the population densities are just higher on the west side, but the hunting is also a lot harder just because they're in the jungle. Like you can't see them,
like
that far.
a hardwood rainforest, and I've seen and heard guys tell stories about hunting them, and there's just giant ferns everywhere,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and you don't shoot them until they're literally like 5 or 10 yards from you because you can't see them.
Right. Unless you're on like a clear cut or like some kind of cut or some sort of natural clearing, then yeah, you're not gonna see them. And that's one of the biggest challenges lately is the reduced logging on public lands. Is it's made the deer and elk hunting a lot harder because the forest is so thick. You don't have those clear cuts to hunt.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, going back to Vancouver Island, they have it down to a science there. Their logging production, and you could see very clearly different phases of there's old growth, there's secondary growth, and there's new growth. And it's all, you'll look at one ridge and be like, okay, that's 20 years old, and this one's, they were here 5 years ago. But it's done uh, meticulously. It's not like a fly by the seat of your pants operation. They're doing it from a sustainability standpoint, and I'm glad Trump is going to do that here. Personally, like I'm for using our own natural resources. A lot of hunters, well, it's mostly Western guys. There's certain group of folks out there who just hate Trump, think that we shouldn't touch anything, and he is opening up drilling in Anwar in Alaska, and I'm like, good, good, do it. Um, People that bitch about it ain't ever gonna go there. They have romanticized this idea of Alaska, and I do too. I want to go to Alaska. I've never been. It's on my bucket list. But I'm a realist. Like these people bitching ain't ever going there. So shut the hell up. Why don't you ask an Alaskan what they want? I have interviewed quite a few of them. They want it. They want the infrastructure. They want an economic boost in their state economy, and they should get it. And it doesn't mean you have to rape and pillage the landscape. And you know what? There is no science to say, oh, the caribou herd is just going to die off. It isn't. Like there's energy production all over places that we hunt. There's mining. There's grazing. All that stuff. And that's the thing that people have really, I think, romanticized is the word is they believe that public land means just for hunting, fishing, and hiking. But it was never intended that way. It's multi-use. And so that's
right.
where
You
I
look at
fall
our
on it.
forest. Look at our forests in the west. Look at the fires we've had
Mm-hmm.
in the last, particularly the last several years, but the last 10 years. We have to manage our forests. If we don't harvest them, if we don't manage them, they burn, and then
Mm,
they do nobody any good
yeah,
because it's gone and they burn so hot it completely nukes the soil, and that place is going to take decades to come back.
yeah,
Whereas a managed forest, fire has a much lower impact.
for sure. And I've crawled over deadfall, um, just massive areas of deadfall elk hunting, and I'm like, this is a tinderbox, and you can drive 50 miles down the road and you can see where it happened, where a fire got out of control 15 years ago, and it still hasn't recovered. Now, there's a there are positive elements, like when the new growth starts to come out of a burn, animals like to be there, right? I mean, it's a good place to hunt them.
Oh yeah.
But the problem is they get out of control and they burn a lot more than they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, if you've been in the backcountry, you're like been in those places where you're crawling over deadfall after deadfall after deadfall, and it's like if someone lit a match in here, this would not be a good situation.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but
there's nothing more disheartening than having a heavy pack on and looking around like everywhere,
there's
every
nowhere to go.
direction you look
Yeah,
is waist high deadfall. You're just
there's
like,
nowhere to
oh,
go.
it's just soul crushing. It's
Just kill
like,
me.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh huh. But the best feeling in the world is when you finally get back to camp after battling with the deadfall and hiking back uphill because your buddy shot it in a canyon. And but I always tell my buddy, just shoot it. That's our future problem. We'll deal with that later.
Right.
First, it has to be shot. I don't care where you shoot it. I'm gonna help you. But you damn sure are gonna
Exactly.
help me. So
Yeah.
so let's go back to the fall of 1946 because it is directly connected to my experience in Canada a couple weeks ago. That's nearly 70 years ago. But in the fall of 46, John Nosler was also moose hunting in Canada and stalked up close to a big bull. Ended up dumping 7 rounds into this animal with a 300 H&H, which I guess a close comparison would be a 300 Win Mag ballistically. So
Yep.
should have some firepower. And he dumped 7 rounds in this thing, and then like, was happy with his shot placement. He's like, "What the hell happened here?" Is cleaning the moose when it finally dies, and realizes those old cup and core bullets just did not penetrate. Essentially, just exploded on impact.
Mm-hmm.
Mushroom. It just didn't do anything. Hit the moose, and the moose was also caked in mud, which
Yep.
probably their hides are already pretty thick. But you would think a 300 caliber would do some damage on a moose. So he's disappointed, obviously, and he decides he's going to build a better mousetrap.
Exactly. Yeah. The American dream of, build a better mousetrap. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, you did your research, so you know the story very well. So you could you could help me give tours here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the irony is, prior to that hunt, he had hunted, hunting deer, hunting here in Oregon, he hunted with a 30-40 Craig. And had he been using that, he probably would have killed the moose just fine with his first shot. And we might not even be talking today about Nosler bullets at
Uh,
all. But the kind of in the build up to that hunt, like he bought himself a new rifle. He's like, oh, I'm going on this moose hunt. I mean, like guys still do today. It's like, oh, I need a Magnum rifle. And at the time, yeah, it was a 300 H&H. I think at the time they just called it a 300 Magnum because there was no Win Mag, so
yeah.
it was the only one. But yeah, real similar to a Win Mag. Um, and he was so close to the moose, the bullets were going so fast because of that faster cartridge that they couldn't hold up. They didn't have the structural integrity to retain enough weight to penetrate through. And so they came apart. I mean, they did a ton of damage, I'm sure, but it was very superficial,
Yeah. So
really
they didn't
shallow
mushroom.
wounds.
They just shattered.
It came apart, kind of like a varmint bullet today, and so did a ton of, surface damage and probably ruined a bunch of meat, but didn't have the structural integrity to punch through into the vitals and give a good quick clean kill. And so, as cartridges were getting faster, smokeless powders getting better, faster, um, he was just right place at the right time to develop a bullet that was gonna what became partition bullet, uh, that's going to hold up, whether it's a close range shot, a really high velocity, or a long range shot. And so I think it's so cool that you used a partition on your moose hunt,
Yeah.
because it was like that was the whole inspiration for the company.
Well, yeah, and calibers come and go. Some have longevity, some don't. Some are, they blow with the shifting breeze, and they're the fad one day, and then a decade or two later, they're gone. But this bullet design hasn't been, and so 70 years later, there I am in Newfoundland, and I've got a Nosler partition 180 crane that I was shooting out of my 300 Win Mag, and the moose. It didn't go well for the moose, not like John's experience. He just went and just fell over. I mean, it was done. And yeah, I was very impressed. And then my buddy that went with me also, um, he listens to the show. He was like, "Well, so tell me about the partition. Is it really?" I was like, "Dude, all I know is I've been using it for the last year, and I took it to Africa, and everything that got shot just died. Like they didn't run really. It breaks bone. It punches through anything, and so he took it and he shot his. The moose was dead on its feet, and he ended up shooting it one more time just for fun or good measure. I think the guide's like, and as they should. If it's still standing, keep shooting, right?
If it's on its feet, keep shooting it. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, we cleaned his, and he got a complete pass through on one on a 750, 800 pound moose. So pretty impressive performance there. But yeah, it was so cool because I had shot a moose in 2018, but I wasn't using Nosler back then, and so to get involved with you guys and then go back to on basically the same experience that John Nosler had, and why we're sitting here talking about the partition was pretty cool. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah. But Nosler isn't limited to the one that got us here, right? My son took the Accubond to Africa in June, his first safari, and he was shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor. And I mean, I didn't think that the PH was going to let him shoot something as big as a water buck with a 6.5 Creedmoor. And he was like, "No, Accubond, you're good." He's like, I've seen this and been there and done that. He's like, first thing, he's like, "What bullet is he shooting?" And I'm, Nosler Accubond. He's like, "All right, water buck, don't shoot it," and everything he shot, same deal. By the end of that hunt, I mean, Carl was like, "Dude, you're a sniper. Everything you're shooting is just falling over dead." And you could see his confidence growing because his experience was sitting in a deer blind and shooting deer, which is very Texas. That's what we do here culturally. And we don't have big tracts of public land. And that's basically what we have, deer leases or ranches. And we hunt out of deer blinds. And every shot is 100 to 200 yards max in most cases. And he got to shoot stuff at 300 yards and shoot off sticks and shoot prone and do all these different things. But the one consistent thing was bullet performance was just devastating. So the Accubond, when did the Accubond come along?
So the Accubond was created in the early 2000s. It was a couple of years of development. So I think it was launched officially around 2005, 2003. Okay. I don't know, you're quizzing me on my dates, and I didn't.
That's all right. So more recent.
Review. So more recent, certainly, yeah. And so the goal with the Accubond was to develop a bullet that provided terminal performance similar to or exactly like the partition, but with a polymer tip bullet and just slightly different, construction, a little sleeker, a little higher BC with a boat tail, just a more, quote unquote, modern bullet design that gave you that same terminal performance that the partition was known for.
Okay. Well, I did I dug this out of my gemsbuck, which I shot in Africa, and that is a perfectly mushroomed partition, which was in the cape on the opposite shoulder. So blew through both shoulders, and you could see it. Actually, you didn't have to go digging. You could see where there was a little knot on the hide, and I just took my
Hmm.
Havilon and just popped it right out. And it's beautiful mushroom, great performance there.
Yeah, we see
Um,
that a lot. That it's very common in both the partition and the Accubond form to be underneath that offside hide to pass all the way through, and just by the time it gets to that far side, like the hide is extremely tough and very elastic, and so it's expended most of its energy. It's really slowed down. It's also expanded a lot, and so it's really reaching the end of its path. And then a lot of times that offside hide just ends up catching it and holding it right there. And I've had that too, where you walk up and you're like, oh, I see the bullet, like the
yeah.
lump, right there under the hide on the offside. And you're like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Plus, being a huge bullet nerd, I love seeing expanded bullets and recovering bullets and looking at them and, thinking about, okay, what did it do? And so it's always fun when you see that where it's just right there
Hmm.
underneath the hide.
I mean, I have a trophy room full of trophies. I do not have an extensive bullet collection. So for me, this is something cool that's just like, a little keepsake and something different to add to the collection. Um, so we also have a product line that we introduced last year in Whitetail Country. I shot a buck in Oklahoma with it last year, and I actually neck shot it. That was the only opportunity I had, and because we had some rolling topography, and that was it. So
Hmm.
shot him neck, boom, dropped him, done. So I didn't really have like I couldn't say. I mean, it was obviously a pass through, right? Um, so that was the only experience I had with performance. I was like, well, yeah, it was effective, but I didn't punch through a shoulder or anything like that, or rib cage. So
Right.
fast forward to this year, my son, last year he didn't get to hunt with it because we didn't have a 243 offering, and he was
Hmm.
on a 243 up until Africa, and the PH was like he needs to get on something bigger. It's like okay, so now he's shooting the 6.5, and
Hmm.
we switched over to Whitetail Country for deer season, and he shot that buck Saturday morning. I've never seen a deer do this. I've seen moose do it. I've seen wildebeest do it. Big animals. You shoot them and they just don't react. They just stand there. I'm like, what? I was like, I know you hit him. I'm looking through the binos. I heard the,
Hmm.
and I was like, you hit him good, as evidenced by the fact that he's just standing there, right? Like,
Right.
so shoot him
Right.
again.
Didn't run away.
And now Henry gets excited and he jacks another one in and he shoots and he misses. I'm like, dude, you're killing me. Shoot the dang deer. He's still standing at the feeder 150 yards away. He puts the third one in, shoots him. The deer stumbles 5 yards, falls over dead. So I'm like, all right, I'm interested to see what happened here. We get up to him, and the first shot was just a little back, but it was a liver shot. And I've seen it with definitely with bow hunting too. Of the first elk I ever shot reacted the same way. He stood there, and then he just kind of walked off, and he just lay down, and within eyesight from me. And this deer, I think, was just dead on his feet. And when you hit him in the liver, I mean, it was like half of it was eviscerated, and there's just blood everywhere. And I think it's a different hurt than when you shoot them in the heart or lungs.
Right. Yeah. Well, and they're bleeding out internally,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what happened. They're not like us. They're not like, oh no, I got
Yeah,
shot. They don't.
yeah.
It's just like,
But I
what
never seen a
happened.
whitetail do it because the whitetail is such a fast twitch animal, and but these other bigger, slower animals maybe expect a little more. So that was why it was so uh, surprising to me.
Yeah. But
But the
and I think a lot of times too, if you don't hit bone, like it's a different kind of like shock to their
mhm,
system, and so I don't know. And
yeah.
I'm sure it just.
Well, went through the rib cage. I mean, he did uh, break the ribs
Hmm.
going
Hmm.
in, but yeah, just the heart and lungs just is a different reaction from. Oh, it's a totally different reaction from a gut shot, but the liver shot, I guess, is something completely different.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, he was super stoked, and uh, obviously the bullet performed very well. Went through the rib cage, and I mean this animal was so hurt that he was just standing there, not knowing what to do, dead on his
Yeah.
feet.
Was that with the Accubond or was that with
No, no,
the solid base in the Whitetail
that
Country?
was Whitetail Country. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So, so anyway, that was his first experience shooting the Whitetail Country, and then now that we have it in 243, that's what Frankie and Stella, my daughters, they're 10. That's what they're going to be hunting with this fall as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. So was that the buck you killed, what, 2 weeks ago? Was that with the 6.5
Yeah.
or Saturday, I guess, last week?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the
Very cool.
6.5. Yep. And then and that was one thing I asked last year. I was like, hey, can we get 243 going? And sure enough, we did 200 and let's see, it's 243 100 grain. Got it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So nice size offering there. And 243, I think, is what a lot of kids start out shooting. So this should do pretty well. I'm thinking certainly in Texas. But we also have what else did we add to the lineup? We added another straight wall. I think we already had 350 Legend. We
Right.
added.
Yeah. So this year we've added, so we launched Whitetail Country last year,
Yeah.
and we're intentional about doing a smaller number of initial cartridges, so we'd be able to support the line right out of the gate. And so immediately got a lot of feedback from customers saying, oh, I wish you'd add this, would you add that? So this year we've added the 243 100 grain, like the one you just showed. And then we also got a lot of feedback from customers saying they wanted a 150 grain option in the 308 and the 30-06, because last year with the initial introduction, we went with the 165 grain, which we still have, but we've added the 150 grain for this year for those guys that like just a little bit lighter bullet in their 308 and 30-06.
What do you think will be more popular?
I think the 150 is going to end up being more popular. I think it kind of just depends, like regionally, kind of with the size of deer and what guys are wanting to do with it.
Yeah.
So I shoot a 308. My son shoot 308s, and so we've always gone like 165s. But I'm going to try that 150 here coming up, and so just to try something different. And so, but I think that one will probably
get a good deal on it.
Yeah, well, you got to do product testing. It's an important part of the job.
Right.
So, gonna test those out. But I think that one will end up being probably more popular just in total, like sales volume. And the performance is pretty similar between the two of them. And then this year we also added the 400 Legend. So last year we had the 350 Legend, which we're still producing, and then we added the 400 Legend as well. So just having an offering for those straight wall states kind of back east, giving them a Nosler option in a straight wall cartridge.
So when did the 400 Legend come around? Like I have a 350 Legend. I took it on I think it was in Illinois. I went on a whitetail hunt, one of those straight walled hunts, and that's the only time I've ever used that gun.
Yeah.
Like why would I limit myself otherwise? But you're not limiting yourself in those states. That's certainly better than shooting a muzzleloader or a slug gun. Right?
Slug gun. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge advantage in over the alternative in the states where you can use it. Yeah. I stopped into a Bass Pro in Springfield when we were hunting over on the west side, and their 350 Legend section of their ammo section was very well stocked. And I was like, I don't think you guys are going to move a whole lot of this in Oregon,
Yeah.
So the 400 Legend, I think, is like 3 years old.
I'm looking at it right now. Wikipedia can tell you everything. So 2023. So not old at all.
Okay. So not that old. Yeah. So I think, one of the complaints that guys have with the 350 Legend was they felt like they wanted something a little heavier, a little more powerful. And so that's why Winchester developed the 400 Legend. So just a little heavier bullet, you're going from a 180 up to a 215 grain bullet. So just a little more downrange energy. There's a lot more 350 Legend rifles out there already built, but the 400 seems to be kind of catching on as well. So we'll see. It's certainly something that people ask for, so we're happy to make it for them.
Well, and if you're used to a slug or black powder, which I like black powder, it's fun, just something different. And there's obviously tags you can draw that are muzzleloader specific, but you're talking about a 250 grain projectile minimum with black powder, and I think I was shooting some like 300 grain. Um, so if that's what you're used to and seeing the damage that can do, you may be like a 180 is like that's not really doing it for me.
Right. Yeah. But you're definitely, recoil is going to be significant no matter what you're using. And so being able to maybe step down a little bit in recoil with
Sure.
the 350 or the 400, but retain some of that killing power is what guys are looking for. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we have going on with Whitetail Country. Why did we design Whitetail Country? Why did we come up with this?
So, Whitetail Country was an answer to a question that people have been asking for a long time and just wanting, um, a Nosler product at a slightly more affordable price point. You look at, Western hunting, we're very focused on, you might draw your tag every couple years, or maybe you're going out one elk hunt a year, and you're really hoping, for that opportunity. And so you're going to invest like everything into that. Whereas a lot of hunting, whitetail hunting is like hunting in America, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
like 80, 90% of the game animals taken are whitetail every year. And so for that application, it's like you're saying in Texas, you're sitting in a block spine, it's a 100 yard shot. And you might shoot multiple deer a year, especially even further east where you're shooting, several deer every season. And so not every customer want to invest in trophy grade for that application, nor did they need it. And so we wanted to have a line available specifically for whitetail deer hunters that wanted Nosler quality, both in the performance of the bullets, terminal performance and accuracy, but at a more approachable price point. And so it's loaded with the solid base bullet, which is actually a legacy bullet for us. It was a bullet that was made in the 70s and 80s, was very popular at that time, and eventually became the ballistic tip bullet when we added the polymer tip. And so over time, when we started making the ballistic tip, the solid base kind of got phased out in favor of the ballistic tip. But with some innovations we've made in our manufacturing, we've been able to now bring back the solid base, and we can manufacture it much more efficiently than we previously were able to. And so we're able to offer it at that lower price point, and then have a Nosler loaded ammunition offering that's a little more affordable than our trophy grade or ballistic tip offerings.
So price per box is what, like 37 something, generally
Yeah,
speaking?
that's like MSRP, so that's probably the highest you're gonna see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so MSRPs are 37.50. So I've seen it at retail for under 30, if you get it on promo. And so very competitive with other, kind of deer specific offerings that are out there on the market.
Cool.
And
Like I
and
said,
this
our experience here at the Smith House is I've shot one buck and Henry shot one buck, and it went well for us each time. And then we'll have more to share after the girls, really get into their whitetail season. So probably Thanksgiving. Dude, they're slaves to soccer. I tell you what, it's like I had never taken my kids out on youth weekend ever because they've always had club soccer. And when I looked at the calendar, I was like, holy crap, dude, you don't have a soccer game? We're gone. I will
Yeah,
be at school at noon and we are getting the hell out of here. He's like, really? I was like, yeah, we're going. Yeah, he was stoked.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Oh, I know. Fall sports are like the biggest impediment to taking kids hunting,
mm,
unfortunately. So
yeah. Um,
sometimes you just got to miss a game or two.
yeah. Well, with club sports, they play enough. You do feel bad missing it, but you're like, I can't. I have to live life too. Like for me, it's work. I was like, I gotta go hunting.
Right?
My
Oh
wife's like,
yeah.
you don't have a real job. Get out of here. But what was I gonna say? Um, I'm having a brain fart. If it comes back to me, I'll edit this out. But it was something
Excited to
prophetic.
hear how it performs for them. How the whitetail country does for your daughters. That's I'm
Yeah.
confident it'll do well for them.
Well,
Bullet
oh,
performance will be.
they think they get to shoot a buck this year. I'm like, hold your horses, like you're still on doe patrol. You gotta.
Yeah, you gotta work your way up,
That's
right?
right. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so we have some other exciting stuff, and I know one of them. I was just looking at some new handgun, specifically revolver offerings. The ASP revolver line. These are big boy guns.
Correct. Yeah. So we've added to the ASP line, we're adding revolver cartridges this year. So we're adding the 38 Special, 357 Magnum, and then also the 44 Magnum. So when we introduced our ASP line several years ago, it was in the common like semi-auto caliber 9mm, 40, 45, 10mm. And we started getting a lot of requests for, when are you going to do revolver? When are you going to do revolver? Because revolvers are still cool. I love revolvers and they're popular. Still seeing innovation in that space, and so we decided this year to add revolver cartridges. And you're seeing so many lever guns being built. You got Ruger with their Marlin line, and Henry and Smith and Wesson now making lever guns, all chambered in, a lot of them in 357 and 44 mag, and those are catching on, just hugely popular. And so when we designed this line, we knew we wanted guys to be able to use it in both. And so if you look on the label, we've actually got velocities for both revolvers and lever guns,
Huh.
knowing that that'll get shot in both. And so we're
Yeah.
excited about having the revolver ammo in the ASP line.
Very cool. I don't have a revolver. I was looking at one last time. I went and picked up a rifle from my FFL guy, and I want one. I really want a hammerless one just to slip in the pocket.
Yep.
That's what I want. But I wouldn't mind having a hand cannon either.
Yeah, you
Uh,
live in Texas, man. Like I thought everybody like just wore like a, Colt like single action army on their hip like everywhere you go,
no,
right?
I
Like isn't
usually have a 1911 or
it? Okay.
I have a Mossberg 9mm or sometimes a Glock, but um, I love 1911s, and I think that's why I historically had never purchased a revolver. But I definitely want to get one,
Yeah.
and I do have two 30-30s. I inherited my grandfather's Marlin 30-30, and I shot a doe with it about 4 or 5 years ago, just out of nostalgia's sake. So I don't know when the last time this thing was fired, and I
Right.
took it to the range. First, I took off his this old, and some people like, because I posted the kind of like the story on social media, like you should have left his scope on there. It was an old Leupold, and I was like, I don't know what the diameter was, but when you've been looking through 30, 34 millimeter tubes for the last 15 years, you're like, I can't. No, this isn't going to work for me. So I took that old ass Leupold off and put a new Vortex on there. Took it hunting, shot a deer, and then put it back in the safe, and it'll stay there for. I don't know if I'll ever shoot it again. No idea. But then I also have a Mossberg 30-30, and I shot my mountain lion with it. And then I did that one open sights. I was like, I want to do I want to do it Western. We're on
Hmm.
horseback. I want to have the gun and a scabbard on the horse and the whole 9 yards. And then they stopped making them, so you can't get those anymore. Um, yeah, those are the only two lever guns that I have. But they are fun to shoot. There's no doubt about
Oh yeah.
that.
Lever guns and revolvers are super fun. So you
Little
should you
cowboy
should get a
stuff.
revolver. You should have one.
Well,
So
all right. So in addition to the one I want to have for, like, say, for my, it might be a 38. I don't know. For my pocket, what, which one should I get just for, because I'm a man and I can?
because we're in America.
Yeah, damn
Um,
it.
well, so you like single actions, you like 1911s. So, I mean, I think everybody should have one like cowboy gun. So you should
Yeah.
have like a single action, um, like even in 22, they're super fun. So like a Ruger single six or like their little Wrangler,
Uh-huh.
just little 22 Plinken single
I
action.
said a
Like,
man gun.
okay, well
Now
then
you're
get a
telling me about a
44.
22.
then you need a 45 Colt or a 44 mag,
I'm
one
gonna
or
get
the
one of
other.
each. We'll plink with the kids with the 22, and I'll get me a hand cannon.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't plink for long with one of those, but the nice thing is, you can always load like cowboy loads and like or in 44 you shoot 44 specials, so that makes it a lot more fun.
Mm.
Because those 44 mags will get your attention pretty quick. So,
So, like, wait, with the 22, what grain bullet would that be?
oh, and a 22, they're usually like 40 grain bullet,
Yeah.
I'm just talking, just 22 long rifle, just little,
Mm.
but it's just fun. And then the kids can shoot it, and it's a good time. No recoil.
Yeah. You know
So,
what's not fun to shoot? I have I do have hand cannons actually, but they are Derringers.
oh gosh. Yeah.
And I have one. I have this one. Oh my god! I shot it one time and I was like, nope, never again. You can shoot a 410 shotgun out of it, and that wasn't bad. Shot that, but then you load it with what is it? 44 long
45 long
Colt.
Colt.
What is it?
Hmm.
45
45
long.
long Colt. Yeah.
That I shot that twice. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. And I used to work with Bond Arms. I have like 4 of these things. Beautiful, detailed, ornate grips. I mean, they are fancy. No, they're like that's a pocket one for sure. You put that in your pocket. If you pull a trigger, somebody's gonna be dead.
Yeah, that's the option of last resort. They're beautiful guns, like
Yeah,
very well made, like just really neat, but God, that's a bad idea. Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad I
just
have
like,
them. I don't ever use them,
yeah,
but
there's
they're
not a
cool to
lot to
have.
hold on to there.
Yeah,
So, yep.
uh, yeah. 45 long Colt. That is not a fun one. Okay, so we have that for the handgun, lever gun enthusiasts. Uh, what about the solid base components?
Gotcha. Yeah, so we covered the new ammo offerings, and so along with that, we're introducing some new component bullets as well, and those are all the component bullets that are loaded in the ammunition we were just talking about. So when we brought back the solid base, we knew in the Whitetail Country line, when we brought back that bullet, we knew we would immediately get a ton of demand. From hand loaders who have been missing the solid base since it was discontinued decades ago, and have wanted to see it come back. And so this year we're reintroducing the solid base as a component bullet. So again, just a slightly lower price point, still Nosler premium quality, but in a bullet design that was really great then and is still really good now. It's a little bit simpler. It has a lead nose, doesn't have the polymer tip that a lot of our other bullets have, like Accubond, uh, the Accubond long range, E-tip, ballistic tip, those have all got polymer tips. So this is a lead nose bullet, so similar to the partition lead nose, but we're offering that as a component for hand loaders. And so that one's in 6mm, 6.5, 270, 7mm. We've got a 3150 round nose for the 30-30, like you were talking about your rifle that you used previously. And then we've also got a 150 and a 165 in 30 cal in a Spitzer. So for 308 and 30-06.
Okay, so very cool. So
Yeah.
for the hand loading community there.
Yep, for the solid base. So looking for a deer bullet, medium-sized game bullet. That's going to be perfect option for them. And then for those straight wall cartridges, we're also releasing our what we call our straight wall bullet as a component. So that's what's loaded in Whitetail Country in the 350 Legend and the 400 Legend, and then also in the 4570. So getting back to lever guns again. So we're offering those bullets as a hand loading component as well. So for
Wait,
those guys reloading in the straight wall states.
the 4570 is really increasing in popularity for some reason.
It is. Yeah,
I don't
it's
know why.
crazy. Well over 100 years old, and it's more
Yeah,
popular
it's
than
like
ever.
a renaissance. We've got, the
It's cool.
4570 came around, going back to Wiki here, in the Springfield model, it's the 1873. It was replaced for the stopgap 5070 government from 1866. So, geez, 1873. And all of a sudden I'm seeing even my buddies. My buddy Ben, shed crazy, he's like, I'm going to do every hunt this year with a 45-70. I'm only going to shoot that. Talk about a little bit of recoil though. That's
Yeah. Oh
that's a
yeah. It'll get
man
your
that's a
attention when
man
it goes on.
man's caliber. Yeah.
For sure. So, well, and it's a neat cartridge though, and it's one of those ones where you can really um, load it to a broad range of velocities and kind of a broad performance range in the modern firearms.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can load, fairly slow, relatively slow loads that the recoil is not quite as bad, similar to maybe like a 12 gauge, or you can load it up a little faster and get a little bit more experience there with the recoil. But it's a great cartridge, and I mean, you got a 45 caliber bullet that's 300 grains. It doesn't need to go that fast to do a whole lot of damage.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's chambered in lever guns, and like there's so many cool lever guns coming out, and guys just love tinkering with those, shooting those, and yeah, who doesn't want to show off to their buddies with like check this out, like
Yeah. Look at how much better I am than you. This is what I'm hunting with, bro. Come on.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're gonna
One
want to
up.
get close with your 45-70. Your range is not quite what it would be with you know, your Creedmoor or your 308, but it'll do the job.
Yeah, for sure. But it is cool to see this resurgence some 150 years later.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we introduced the 45-70 in our Whitetail Country line last year, and that has been the most popular offering in the whole line, which
Really?
surprised everyone.
I mean,
So,
I knew that it was, on the comeback trail, but I didn't realize it was the most popular one. Wow.
yeah,
A lot of
at
people
least
are
for
using
now.
it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tons of guys are shooting it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a neat cartridge and
Uh-huh.
cool history and evidently a bright future ahead of it still. So,
Yeah. Well, so Mason, what hunts do you have still on the calendar that you're looking forward to for this fall?
so like I said, took my oldest son hunting. He got a deer. I have two sons, so younger brother needs to get out there and try and get one now. So we're headed out Saturday. Going to do a day hunt, and then the following weekend. So our youth weekend for that Western general hunt, it's at the end of the season rather than the front end,
Mm.
because with blacktails, they have a pretty pronounced rut. I think similar to whitetail. I don't know. I haven't whitetail hunted enough to speak on that, but I know the rut is real important for whitetail deer
Yeah.
hunting, and so with blacktails, the rut definitely has an effect too, just because the bucks start moving a lot more, and like I mentioned, they're hard to find in the thick forest. So when they're cruising around looking for does, it makes them just you see them a lot more because they happen to be moving around. And so our youth weekend is the 8th and 9th, and so we're going to go
Okay.
hunt blacktails over on the western side of Oregon that weekend. And then I've got a hunt coming up. It'll actually be on the Oklahoma Texas border, but going to be going on a hunt with Mossy Oak here later in November, right before Thanksgiving, and
Okay.
hunting whitetails with them. So
In
get to do a
Oklahoma
little.
or Texas?
It depends. So I guess the
Oh,
outfitter we go with has property in both, and so it just kind of depends.
yeah.
I think I'll be in Oklahoma because I've hunted Texas whitetails before, so I thought it'd be
Yeah.
fun to check off another state. But it's up to the outfitter. So
Uh-huh.
I think half of us will be on the Texas property, and the other half will be on the Oklahoma property. So
That's
remains to be
cool.
seen.
I
So
I've had leases in Oklahoma for the better part of a decade off and on, and we gave up our Oklahoma farm this year. We had it for 3 years, a buddy and I, and they just keep sticking it to non-residents. Like they don't want us there. It's sad. Uh,
oh really? In
oh yeah,
license fees or
yes, they went. So it was already $300 per season for a non-resident. So you want to hunt archery, $300. You want to hunt muzzleloader, and they're all different time frames. The archery
oh
goes
wow.
throughout the whole thing, but the muzzleloader is the rut hunt, basically. Um, Now rifle too, but they're all different seasons, but there's no price break. You can't just be like, I want to buy my Oklahoma non-resident license. They're like, boom, $500. Here's your sorted. No, now and then they raised the price. So 2 years ago they said we are going to make it $170 to buy the license. Once you buy the license, now you can buy your whitetail tags, and it's $500 for archery, $500 for muzzleloader, and $500 for rifle. So $1,700 if you want to do the whole thing.
On top of having a lease and everything else.
Yeah, well,
gas and
I love Oklahoma. It's a wonderful hunting state, but I believe it's and just from seeing stuff on social media, and I'm not trying to throw any shade at our Oklahoma listeners, but I believe it's the residents that saw Texans coming in and leasing and buying land and out competing. Oklahoma is not a very wealthy state, and so a lot of North Texas money was filtering in there. And I get it, and also a lot of the public land hunters, it was all Texas license plates at my WMA or whatever.
Right.
So I don't blame them. If I was in that, I always try to look at things through my lens, but also what is this person, what is their experience like? And I don't blame them. It's like I look at, take like Africa, for example. If you take away sustainable use hunting, what's going to happen? Well, okay, the wildlife is going to be poached, is going to be killed, it's going to be wiped out, and they're going to replace it with grazing because they have to make a living. Does that mean they don't love wildlife? No, it means they're trying to survive. Mm-hmm. So that's the way they're looking at things, and Oklahoma residents looking at it is like, well, damn, all these Texans are coming in here blowing out my spots and raising the prices of leases, and so I think they're, Oklahoma. I can't remember if it's Department of Wildlife, maybe, I don't know what it is, but I think they heard the complaints and they did something about it, and we gave up our lease and found something else, so it is what it is. But that's just my little sob story on why I don't have an Oklahoma farm anymore.
Well, and I think that's happening in a lot of states. There's kind of an anti-non-resident sentiment, and so a lot of states are raising the prices on their non-resident tags and license fees. And yeah, like you said, like I get it,
Wyoming's been doing it.
Yeah.
Wyoming's been bad lately.
When you can't blame them, when somewhere becomes like a destination for the rest of the country, it's like, well, they got to make money somewhere.
The difference there is, which is why I'm gonna say like that's different because that's federally owned land in most of that scenario. So that means you and I own it as much as they do, whether they like it or not. The Oklahoma stuff is more leasing up private land, but it's just smaller tracts of public land there. Which if Texans are jamming it all up, then yeah, okay, I get it. But they are raising the rent on federal public hunting land rights, essentially.
Right.
That's a little different. And if you look at what a Wyoming resident pays, well, it's the non-residents that are doing the heavy lifting as far as funding their state fish and wildlife agency. And that's not unique to Wyoming. That's Colorado. I looked at the numbers last year. 80% of their revenue was driven by non-resident hunters from elk, mule deer, the two primary ones, antelope, black bear. This generates massive income. And then you talk about the financial impact of, like, I'm going to Colorado next week for a mule deer hunt. How much money am I going to spend in Colorado on fuel and food and, maybe a hotel one night and all that stuff? It's definitely a revenue generator. And so we haven't reached the tipping point yet where you really start pricing people out west. But a lot of people left Oklahoma. A lot of Texans like myself were like, eh. But to be honest, if I would have seen 170-inch deer cruising around, I would have been like, here, take my money.
You would have kept your lease?
For sure.
Yeah.
The best buck we saw out there in 3 years was like a 140, and we were just like, let's find something that's bigger on the Texas side that we can. And our kids are getting older, and it's like we wanted more of like a family place. You can't do a ton with 200 acres. So,
right, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but yeah, you bring up an interesting, kind of subject of like, okay, you're hunting on federally owned land, but it's managed by a state entity, and so, yeah, where is I don't know. I hadn't thought of it that way before, but that brings up some definitely some interesting talking points.
Yeah. If they keep raising the rent, like eventually they will see a drop in the number of people, of non-residents participating. So
Well,
I
and my
don't.
concern is
We
that
haven't reached it yet.
yeah, and well, what we don't want to see is pricing everyone out. I mean, that's one of the things that's great about America is that we have hunting rights and that it is a sport that's available to everyone. But as it gets more and more expensive, harder and harder to find a place to go, then the number of hunters is going to continue to shrink, which is not necessarily a good thing.
Mm-mm. No, I mean that is certainly in there. I think um, what is it? National Shooting NSSF.
Mm-hmm.
They've done studies on that and like found that the number one limiting factor for a lot of people is access. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where do I go? Especially in a state like Texas where it's 98% privately owned. In Oklahoma's, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's mostly privately owned, and it's really a Western phenomenon. That's all of these massive swaths of federal land.
Right.
So yeah, it is.
Yeah. If you want to lose somebody really quick, just start explaining to them the process for drawing tags for hunting in a Western state. And you
Oh
realize how
no,
crazy you sound when you start explaining it.
I don't do it.
Their
I don't
eyes
do it.
glaze over. They're like, oh my gosh. They're like,
I
nope, not interested.
I used to, and then I would miss like buying points in Montana or Wyoming. I missed because the deadlines are all different. They never. It'd be nice if they said, "Oh, all the Western states or all 50 states, this is the day for hunting applications. All 50 are different." And so, if someone asks me about that, I just say, "This is Hunting Fool's website. They'll sort it out for you." That's what I do.
Yep,
Never miss a
absolutely.
deadline again. Now
Yeah.
they were blowing me up yesterday because they were trying to buy my Wyoming points, and they're like, "Hey, your credit card's expired. We hate to bother you. Can we get a new credit card so we can buy your points?" I mean, that's how thorough they are. It's great. You don't have to worry about it ever again.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's a very cool
Yeah.
service
So
that they offer. So
plug for Hunting Fool, our friends over there. Well, Mason, man, I appreciate the time. Huge fan of Nosler. Love working with you guys, and it's easy to get behind a product that you've seen work in the field and that you believe in. So Nosler makes amazing, high performing ammunition, and yeah, I look forward to continuing that relationship.
absolutely, yeah. I'm glad to hear it's been working well for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what how your Colorado hunt goes, and then how your hunts with your daughters go as well. So.
Well, don't think that I'm not going to shoot a buck too. So,
Oh well, yeah, certainly. Yeah, but you're not.
yeah.
That's to me, that's not nearly as important as the kids getting one. I get way
No,
more excited
it
about the
isn't.
kids getting something than me. So
Oh, for sure. I asked Henry after he shot his deer. I was like, "Were you shaking?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude." And I said, "Me too, man."
right?
Yeah.
I get worse buck fever when I'm like spotting for them than when I'm the shooter. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get more nervous and more excited when something pops out for them. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a really fun way to kind of reinvigorate your love of hunting. So
Yeah. There's
it's
nothing more
cool.
rewarding.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, thanks again. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too. Good luck on your hunts and have a good one.
Likewise.
All right. Thanks a lot.